Macca, where are we going today, mate?
G'day and good morning. Today we're heading to the city. It's the 3rd of October, and as promised, we're going back out on location. So we're on our way to the city now. We're not going to give away what today's story is. Very interesting story from the 1970s. Mr. John Killick, our regular. We love Johnny. He's waiting for us. We're going over the Gladesville Bridge now, and we'll see you shortly.
It's great weather today. It's at the time. I gotta get going. It's a new episode. I don't want to miss it. It's Maccas Old School podcast. Come join.
G'day! We've arrived. We're here at the Sydney Hilton today, so it won't take too much to work out what it's about. It's 1978 on the 13th of February, the Sydney Hilton bombing. It's a terrible story. I'm here as usual with my co-host and partner here on the show, a great man, Mr. John Killick. Good morning, John.
Good morning, it's great to be here.
Good on you, mate. We've got John here. John is not only the co-host today, he's our guest as well, because he knows all about this. He knows all about this situation. He knew the gentlemen involved, the ones that were actually innocent, and he knows a lot about this story and what have you. Right here, I don't know if you can get a shot of this, Marcus, just behind us was actually where the garbage truck was. So basically here, we have the monorail or the tram running now. So we're basically standing where the street was at the time. On the 13th of February 1978, the council workers, the Garbos, came to collect the garbage at 12:40am approximately. There was also a police officer that was stationed just over here. So the Sydney Hilton looks completely different, folks, to what it used to. There was a police officer at the ground floor who was guarding. The 2 council workers, when it exploded, were killed, and a police officer. 3 people were killed, 9 plus seriously injured, critically injured. So John, at this point, mate, I would like to ask you, what are your thoughts about the whole thing, and who did you know? You did some prison time, and basically take it from there, John, and get your thoughts on it. I'll hand this over to you, mate.
Yeah, thank you, Macca. There are a lot of people who don't know about this because 1978, we're going back quite a while. That's what, 46 years ago.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. It was on my birthday in 1978, the day before Valentine's Day. And it's something that you never forget, and I met a lot of people that were connected with this, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But this morning, when I came here, I had a coffee, and somebody walked past, I had a coffee cup, and they said, "Are there any garbage bins around here?" And I said, "No, because people put bombs in them." Now,
yes, it's true.
They
it's
looked
true.
at me like I was stupid, but it's actually true.
It's true. And it was a very high-powered bloody bomb too, wasn't it, John?
Well, this is it. The thing is, there was an inquiry into this as to how the hell somebody could put a bomb. At the time we had Chogam, there was a Chogam meeting here.
That's good.
Yeah. The Indian Prime Minister was here, and a lot of leaders of state of other countries involved with Chogam. And the security, like these days, it would never happen. But the security for a garbage bin not to be checked, and it wasn't. And the head of security came under fire about that as to why it wasn't checked. And he said, well, we just thought there it was well guarded, there were police around.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think somebody could get there. And so it shows they were pretty slack with security. And there was also false, we should point this out, false accusations.
Oh, absolutely, mate. We need to go into that.
Yeah, we do.
So there's some real bullshit that went on about the whole thing.
Well, what they were saying, the police deliberately planned it there, or security, then they were going to find it and say, look, we're doing our job, what a great job. Well, that was all absolute garbage. That didn't happen. That's been proven. And we know history has proven us, and facts have come out as to who the bomber was. His name was Evan Pederick, and I'll go into that later. But first, what happened is when it did happen, everybody was pretty sure it was to do with an Anamaga, which it was.
Which was an Anamaga sect, wasn't it? And it was a religious sect.
It was a religious sect.
It was quite big in the 70s, wasn't it?
And it was quite big, and but they did say, some of them, like Tim Anderson was the head of it in Australia, and he said that they weren't violent, but they did prove that there have been a lot of violent acts at the time.
There was definitely an element of it that was.
There was, because their leader was in prison in India and for murder. And the thought, cockeyed as it is, that motivated the bombing was the guy who did it because they thought that if they killed the Indian Prime Minister, they would force the release of their leader over in India, which is just absolutely ludicrous.
It is. It's
insane.
You know, to even think of that. I should have pointed that out earlier, actually, folks, as well. It was the CHOGM, which was the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and I believe there was 10 foreign leaders staying in the hotel at the time.
That's correct.
Yeah. And it was directed at the Indian Prime Minister. Actually, to me, it is definitely an act of a form of terrorism, mate, but it wasn't directed at the Australian PM, bloody Fraser, at the time.
But it is regarded as probably the worst act of terrorism in Australia because of what happened. Because, as you said, not just 3 people killed, 2 council workers and a policeman, but there were 9, and maybe even, I'm not sure, one with 13 that were actually injured.
It was 9 plus, Through our research, we've got different numbers, but it was 9 plus, and very critically injured as well. The copper that was injured too, John, was critical, but he didn't actually die until the following day.
No, that was
so the poor guy,
he died in agony.
In agony, exactly.
And it was a huge bomb. It was a huge bomb.
Absolutely.
Now, the thing is that the show where we were in 78 with our security, because it could never happen now, is that, of course, we've got cameras everywhere now too, but what happened, what they did, the Prime Minister and the Premier, they got together, and what they decided was that they were going on a train, all the tribal leaders were going on a train to Barrel. Now, Barrel's a nice country town.
Show a bit of Australia off there.
People might remember it as where Donald Bradman, the Bradman Oval's there, and the museum there. But
famous.
It's a nice town, Barrel, and a lot of rich people, influential people live in Barrel. So they were going there by train, and they had all the catering, you name it. It was just going to be a great day. But what happened, they decided then that was too risky, so they flew them there by helicopter, but they went ahead with the train trip just to throw people off the track. And they brought the army in. They felt that the police weren't equipped to handle it. And the army...
Interesting point.
You were in the army. The army weren't trained, particularly in 78, for that sort of thing.
No, mate. They weren't trained for that.
The police had special squads that I think could have done a better job.
I agree. I mean, back then it just would have been a bunch of guys standing around with some SLRs and,
Well, you can imagine what they'd do if they fired one of them.
Well, exactly, mate. They blow a nice hole in there. They blow a nice hole.
And so the whole thing was a bit of a farce, really.
Fraser, PM at the time was Malcolm Fraser, and he fucked it up.
Well, Fraser was also on record as saying that there was no meeting took place between him and the Indian Prime Minister at Government House over Kirribilli because of the fact that he'd just come on a long trip, etc.
Total bullshit.
Proven that he lied because it was shown by records later that meeting actually took place. So why the hell he would say that? But that's what politicians did in those days. And I think they're still doing. I don't think they always tell the truth. And
they're even worse these days, John.
Well, it's whatever they want to believe. So what happened here was they were in a panic to find out who did this. They were in a hell of a panic. And what they did, they found there was a guy called Richard Seary. Now, the police had actually, special police force had infiltrated an Anamaga and they had at least one member in Indian Anamaga.
Yeah.
And there was a rumour that they were going to do something, and that they were going to assassinate the leader. Called, I think his name was Robert Cameron, who was the leader of a right-wing group at the time.
Okay.
And, so they were totally against that, and they were going to assassinate him. Now, a bloke called Richard Seary said that he was also in Anamaga. He was given information to special police. He said that 3 men in Anamaga guys. One of them was Tim Anderson, who was the leader in Australia of it.
Yep.
The other one was Ross Dunn and Paul Alistair. These were the 3. He said planned to kill this right-wing leader, Cameron. So they were charged.
It's a stitch-up, isn't it, John? I mean,
well, it was a stitch-up. Well, they were charged with that.
Yeah.
Not the bombing. They were also accused of bombing, but it showed that one of them was in Adelaide at the time that the bombing took place. And so
was that Anderson?
No, it was Dunn or Alistair.
Yeah,
it was over in Adelaide.
Adelaide, yeah.
That one of them was over there. So they convicted them that, and that I went into Long Bay in June 1978.
Yeah.
And they were there then at the MRC,
yeah.
Metropolitan Remand Centre at that stage, and it was a who's who of criminals. Nettie Smith was there, Jockey Smith was there, Murray Riley, the cop, and Doc Palmas, Crop Palmer, all these high-profile crims.
Celebrity type crims.
They were involved in a 6 tons of importing.
Was it marijuana? Or
Yeah. Pot,
usually pot or coke. Yeah.
And they got quite a whack for that. But it was just so many people that who's who in crime were there in '78. You just wouldn't believe how many. I've never seen so many. I don't know if you call them celebrity crims, but crims are quite infamous.
Well known. Yeah.
Now, probably the most talked about there at the time though were the Anamaga guys, because the 3 of them sat there outside. I'll never forget, outside our wing, and with their legs crossed all day, and all they did, they went on a hunger strike, and they lasted for weeks. In fact, I think about 40 days. And all they ate was oranges. And we used to, in those days, we used to get oranges. They took those off us in the jail when.
But you couldn't have any vitamins or nutrition, could you?
Oh no, a couple of guys made a home brew and got drunk and tipped the guy on his head, and that guy became a paraplegic.
Oh fuck! I didn't know that.
And it was in a fine zone. He was in for fines. So they stopped the orange, and we've never seen an orange again in the system since then.
It's like that, isn't it? It's amazing how you've got a good thing and someone will fuck it up. But the poor bastard got injured. Someone always stuffs it up.
It's blanket punishment.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was talked about then that the screws didn't do their job because they could find brews if they really looked. Yeah. And guys used to hide them in obvious places. They're just too lazy to go around and look for these brews, So it's just typical now.
So you got to know, John, you got to know them quite well.
Well, I got to know them very well, and I came back from court one day, and I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe it, I was actually innocent of this particular thing I was charged with. I was verbally weighted by Roger Waddison in court, and I went on and won it in the High Court of Australia. Armed robbers don't win case in the High Court of Australia.
And you did? That took a while too, didn't it?
Yeah, it took 3.5 years.
Jesus.
And I was away from home and that. But I was actually set up on that one. It's the only thing I've ever been accused of that I didn't do. I still complain about it today. But you wouldn't believe it. I'm having a shower, and right next to me I heard someone crying. And I said, "You okay?" And it was one of the Anamaga guys. I'm not sure which one it was. But he was actually crying. And
you're pretty young bloke too, weren't you?
Yeah, they were. And he said, we went to court today and the police lied. He said, I didn't think police would lie. He said, we're in trouble. Yeah. And I realised that he was so naive, that these guys were so naive.
And he's terrified.
And you wouldn't believe there's 2 guys standing next to each other in a shower, probably the only 2 innocent guys in the whole job. And it's just ironic that happened. But so those guys stuck it out on a hunger strike, and you could see them that they were losing weight, and they took them out of the hospital, and eventually they came off that hunger strike. But they did 7 years. Because
I was going to say, they got out, was it 85, I believe they got out?
That's right, they got out in 85, yeah.
And 2 were charged and 1 wasn't. Was that Anderson?
No, the three of them were charged? The 3 were charged. What happened, they all did the 7 years.
Yep.
And they were given the judge was scathing. He said that the guy, Siri, who testified against them, had lied on at least 60 occasions, and yet they still got convicted.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, it was because somebody wanted to get somebody for what happened, and they didn't have anybody for the bombing.
This seems to be the case years ago too, wasn't it? It's like we've got to get someone. We need bums on seats here because we look like fuckwits if we don't. Yeah, we look like idiots if we don't.
It's still that way. It happened with Wyden Milat, but with him we know he was guilty, but they had to get somebody.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, they were released in '85, but in '89 they still didn't have anyone at this stage for the bombing. In '89, this other guy come through, Evan Petterick.
Yep. And I believe he confessed.
He confessed. He came up and said, "Look, I did it. I'm the one who did it." But he also said it was ordered by Tim Anderson, who, had just been released 4 years earlier.
Yep.
So they grabbed Anderson as well, and then they got a very notorious criminal by the name of. You know who it was?
Yeah, yep.
You know who it was,
Yeah.
He got up and testified that this guy, Anderson, confessed to him in a cell. Ray Denny was the guy. And he was pretty famous and a bit of a legend, escape artist, but drugs.
He went bad. He went bad at the end, and he became a dog at the end.
He became, and he made up these stories.
Yeah.
And one of the stories about Tim Anderson, because they did share a cell, said that Anderson told him he'd done it. Now, that was used, plus what Petterick said, because Petterick said, look, Petterick was come from a reasonable family, broke away, went to uni, failed at uni, and just...
Did he fail? Yeah, because I believe he was quite well educated.
Yeah, but he was sort of a... he didn't know really what he wanted. And anyway, the Anna Margo, they snared him down in Tasmania, and he joined them, and he was a bit weak and talked into things, and anyway, he's the one, and he was quite detailed about it. There's not any doubt he did it. He did it. He put the explosives in there, and he said this in 1989. He was convicted of it. He did quite a term in prison over it.
Yeah.
But he said that Anderson did it. So what happened? They pulled Anderson in again and convicted him on this evidence and the evidence of Ray Denny. Now, he was absolutely shocked, Tim Anderson, that this could happen to him. He had a lot of influential people, including Manning Clark, quite a lot of influential people backing him up. They knew that.
I mean, the whole thing through this tragedy, the whole thing really was a mess, wasn't it? I mean,
it's a mess.
What we're talking here, conviction-wise,
and there's still rumours going around that the police...
And 3 people lost their bloody lives as well.
Not to mention the people badly injured as well.
Oh, bloody oath. And you would still have psychological scarring for whoever remaining family members are left today.
I don't think Anderson's ever recovered. He's still, to a degree, very far left.
Yep.
There's no doubt far left. In fact, he got dismissed from Sydney Uni. Not long ago for putting a swastika on an Israeli flag. So and Tim's a pretty smart guy. He's written books. He's a pretty smart guy.
He's still involved with Sydney Uni today, is he?
I don't know. He got sacked. But the thing is that I met him. He was quite an intelligent guy.
Yep.
And did teaching and whatnot, wrote books. But these sort of things leave a scar. They scar your mind.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but as I was saying earlier, we're basically standing on the spot, and I'll get Marcus to get a shot. Because this would have been the street, John, where we're at now.
That's right.
That would have been the gutter over here. And so it looks nothing like does it, John? It looks nothing like the old Hilton.
Things
It's completely
have
different.
changed. Yeah,
It's a beautiful hotel, but it looks nothing
absolutely,
like it.
yeah.
But we're going to go up shortly too, John, to the memorial.
Yeah, we'll go
which
up
is
there.
Just on the other side, the bus terminal on QVB. There is a plaque and memorial for the three
It's
people
hard to
that
believe it was
died.
46 years ago.
I can't believe it either.
No, but something else we've got to point out here is that when Tim Anderson appealed on that, he went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court judge was scathing of the fact that he was convicted. He said, how can anybody be convicted on this evidence? And this is what happened. If they get it in for you, you get a couple of liars get up and lie about what happened. Juries will convict you.
Yeah.
Particularly if the judge goes along with them. And this is what happened. It was absolutely pathetic conviction.
Was anything followed up on the police side of things, or whatever was said? Was there any chasing up of, listen, this is bullshit?
Well, the police and security ASIO, they are still fielding off these false accusations that they were involved. Everybody knows who did the bombing. It should be left at that. The ASIO and the police, and I'm not a great one for protecting the police or ASIO, but they were totally innocent.
That's right.
They had nothing to do with it.
No, today we're saying that the coppers were innocent.
And ASIO was innocent. I mean, the thing is, they had infiltrated in Macca, but they didn't pick up that Evan Pedry.
Yes.
Because he's such, I call him a loser. He's actually over in Perth now. He's become a minister. His father was a minister, and he's a minister now. And,
unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just once you're on that gravy train and that wagon, mate, isn't it? You're off, and it doesn't matter what you do.
But it
you're
shows
bloody
to me
off.
that sects are very dangerous.
Yeah, they are.
They got radical ideas quite often wrong. As I wrong here, fancy believing that if you kill the Indian Prime Minister, they're going to release a murderer.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane. What statement's that going to make? But like, so 3 innocent people were killed and nothing else was achieved.
And all those
3 families had their asses torn out. Nothing else was achieved.
Injuries, some of those injuries,
well, some of the research we've done, it said 9, it said 11, it said 14. So we're saying 9 plus. Serious injuries, because it would have been a lot like a bomb exploding on a battlefield. You've got shrapnel and steel and shit going all over the place, so they would have copped, all sorts of shit. I think Marcus will get some stills put up of this as well, the bombing and where it was right here. But did you see the actual garbage truck? The arse was just blown out of it. Like,
it was a very powerful bomb.
It was a powerful bomb. Bloody hell.
You've only got to look what happened down in Russell Street when Stan Taylor and the other his friends they put all that gelignite in the car. In 2 cars. One of them thankfully didn't go off. That was blocks away. That explosion. And it killed one innocent policeman walking past. She got killed.
That was huge.
Well, his intention was to kill the whole all the police in Russell Street, but he always said that he'd do it, but he took the cows away out and put a bomb there, And,
that's right, that was an innocent police lady.
Well, she died, her name was Angela Taylor, and respect to her, she died in agony about 3 weeks
Horrific.
later.
Horrific. Laying there basically full of morphine, unconscious and agony,
So I think there's nothing worse than getting caught up in bombs and sympathetic,
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a change location shortly, John, and we'll go to that plaque and memorial and talk more about that. We'll name I think we should name the 3 people when we go up there as well that were pretty much executed.
Definitely, I think we should,
and also give condolences to their families and what have you. But 1978, 13th of February it was.
That's right.
Your birthday?
My birthday. I
Your
won't
birthday?
say how old I was then, but I was a lot younger.
Well, gee, you're nearly 60 now, so. 12:40 a.m. Copper standing over here, completely different facade, standing outside there. The Garbo truck pulls in, basically around here, folks. Pulls in, they just do their job, John, and see you later. Council Garbos to the city of Sydney. Poor bastards were probably on back then $8 an hour or $10 an hour. There goes your life,
But you think that garbage bins with a China learning inside
would have been checked. You've got 10 foreign leaders in there.
And the head of security, what he said, he should have been sacked because he said, I just assumed that we had
100%.
guards there and that they wouldn't allow us that to happen. I mean, if that's not past the buck, I don't know what it is.
Oh, mate, it was.
If I'd have been me, I'd have resigned.
Yeah.
With apologies.
Yep. And the thing is, but Sydney 1978, it was a different time, different world.
It was. Yeah.
We were a lot more easier going and flexible and what have you.
Well,
but this was big news at the time.
Have a look at 78. We love Melbourne Cups. A horse called R1 won it. It comes from Nara. It's Nara spelled backwards.
Well, you used to like a punt, I heard, John, didn't you, years ago?
Definitely,
I loved going to the races, but I wasn't much of a punter, but it was more for the women and the booze. But anyway,
Well, they've always said the race was a good place to meet
Great
ladies.
day. Oh.
Ladies out there, yeah.
Is that what they said, John?
Yeah.
You might know. Anyway, getting back on track, we're going to change location shortly, folks. We just wanted to give the basic outlay, didn't we, of what happened on this terrible...
I think it's good that these things are revived every now and again.
Absolutely.
It happened a long time ago.
46 years ago, and nothing's been spoken about it either, mate.
Well, the person I spoke to today, when I said about people with bombs, didn't know what I was talking about. So they're not aware that these things can happen. When you go to airports and stuff, they're very careful about and even on trade schools, they're very careful, and they're watching what people leave in bags.
Yeah.
And you're told if you see a bag, don't pick it up.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we're going to change locations. It's school holidays, team, and it is loud here. So we've done our bit here. We're going to head to the memorial next and just talk a little bit more about it. It's getting real noisy here, John.
Yeah.
School holidays. What can we do? So, all right. We'll see you shortly, and we'll continue the story of the 1978 Sydney Hilton bombing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, folks. This is our second segment and our final segment. Firstly, I'd like to say, reference the plaque of the three people that were killed, executed, I say, John, and they were executed.
Well, I think executed is a good word.
They were. 3 innocent people, 2 council workers, Garbos, we used to call them the Garbos, and a police officer as well. The names was Alec Carter, and I hope I get the pronunciations right, William Favell, and Paul Burmistrew. Is that correct? Paul Burmistrew was a police officer. The council workers was Alec Carter, William Favell, and Paul Burmistrew.
And we pay our respects.
We pay our respects to them and any surviving family members as well, John.
Well, the thing is that most people don't know about this today, and I think it's good that we do remind people that
absolutely,
even a country like Australia, not just then, but even more so perhaps now, is open to a terrorism attack.
Absolutely.
And this is what can happen.
And this is part of what our show is about too, Old School, bringing up these stories that people have forgotten about. I'm sure the families certainly haven't forgotten about.
Well, it probably should have happened. And we got into it earlier, but Special Branch and ASIO had infiltrated the Anamaga. They knew, they were warned by, before, that they were warned in late 77, the Australian government was warned by the Indian government that the Anamaga were, as far as
a religious sect, and
were dangerous and were virtually going to commit acts of terrorism. Now, acts of terrorism, can be in many different ways. They didn't come out and say, look, at the Chogram meeting, because the Chogram, all those leaders were ex-British colonies. And the
Commonwealth heads of government,
Commonwealth heads of government. Yeah. Now, the thing is, I think there were maybe 10 or it might have been 12 of them. But they were important at the time in 78 and still important today.
Yes.
Now, the thing is that the insane idea to kill the Prime Minister.
Indian Prime Minister.
Then they'll let our leader go who's doing life for murder in India. Yeah, sure, they're going to do that, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Kill the Indian Prime Minister was the thing at the time, but instead you executed 3 innocent people.
But where the conspiracy theories come from is that because ASIO and Special Branch had infiltrated in Anamaga, that they felt that they influenced the bombing and then were going to move in and stop it.
Yep.
And that didn't happen. So history has proven, court documents have proven that that didn't happen, that it had nothing to do with special branch or ASIO. Special branch and ASIO perhaps should have been more what we call on the ball, and the garbage bin particularly, how they could leave a garbage bin unattended outside.
You would think even in the 70s that's one of the first things they'd check, John, wouldn't you?
Sure.
I mean, it's a garbo, and you can stick anything in a garbo, can't you? I mean,
people don't realise before that there were minor terrorist attacks in Australia, just incidents that had happened, that were violent, and so everybody knows that there are people dying to put bombs.
Yeah.
Anti-government. Let's put a bomb somewhere.
Yeah.
And
this was 78 too. So imagine today.
Yeah.
Today you got to be kidding. They check everything. They scan. Of course they had they didn't have the technology then, but they do now. But
well, in 1970, I heard Stan Taylor. We were in Hastings with Peter Walker and all those heavy guys. Stan Taylor used to consistently talk. He had 21 and a half years for armed robberies and escaped. Felt that he was unfairly treated, had a bad childhood.
Give him a card.
Hated police. Hated police, and his idea was that he was going to get out, strap some jolly night around him, and go in and bomb the whole Russell Street. Now he did put as we said before, he did put a car bomb outside there, and exploded and caused a lot of damage. But the thing is, even then, he was talking about it there in 1970. That's 8 years before this happened. Now that's just one rat bag.
Yep.
That's one rat bag.
Yep.
How many rat bags are out there dirty on governments that want to do something? You've seen letter bombs got sent, some security guy in Adelaide got killed. It might have been an ASIO guy was killed by a letter bomb.
Absolutely, John. This is the stupidity of it, isn't it? This is my intention to kill this person. They don't get a scratch, but you always end up killing some poor innocent bastard.
They're cowards.
Yeah, it is a 100% cowardly act.
And I know we're going to get attacked by some people. I've got to say this.
Sure.
Who are watching this and are going to say, what about what's going on over in the Middle East? This has got nothing to do with that. We can't get politically involved in what's happening in the Middle East, as horrible and horrific as it is. We cannot. We're here about something that happened in Australia.
Australian-based crime stories.
Which is a very heavy act of terrorism here in this country. And we're not here to talk about what's going on overseas.
100% agree. Absolutely. The old school is why we call it. It's old stories of Australia that people don't talk about, and we try and do it a little bit.
Stories. That's what this is about.
A little bit different.
It's not a political agenda here.
No way. Religion and politics is out of this.
We can't get involved in that.
Yeah, no, look, I couldn't agree more. Any final thoughts you want to say, John? We're pretty much going to wrap this up. I think we've covered it. We don't want to keep repeating over and over. But we've been on location with this 46 years crime.
I want to say this.
Please.
I went to jail for 3 years for something I didn't do. Tim Anderson, Paul Alistair and Ross Dunn did 7 years for something they didn't do. And then Tim Anderson went in and did another nearly 2 years for something he didn't do because the authorities wanted convictions and they convicted the wrong people. And it's a thing that there's a theme underlying right through a lot of these stories that we do, including the one where that gentleman was killed, shot in the back. If that wasn't unjust, I don't know. So we'll continue to...
Dwayne Johnson.
We'll continue to do podcasts. And if we feel there's something unjust...
Some unjust or controversial. And that's exactly right, John. We're going to be onto it because it needs to be talked about.
It does. And this was a horrific crime. Shouldn't have happened. But I just want you to, before we finish, I want you to try and get a mental picture of how serious this was taken when Prime Minister Fraser and Premier Ram got together, called in the army for the first time in peacetime. 2,000 troops were along the streets coming into Mittagong, Barrel and leaving Sydney. They had helicopters and
You name it. The whole.
and
For the 70s, that was pretty full on.
2000.
Yeah.
And people must have wondered what the hell. And the people of Barrel, the
Yep.
quiet little town of Bendigo, wondered what the hell is going on.
What's going on here?
And it showed that how authorities can overreact too.
Absolutely.
They can, and it just takes a trigger to set something off.
Look, I think Fraser made a bit of a mess of it himself. I wasn't Malcolm's biggest fan, but I was a kid when this happened. I was 11, and but I remember watching it on the old 49 centimetre Sharp TV in the lounge room.
Fraser was involved in probably the two biggest events Australian history in the 70s.
Yes.
And that is, I should also mention we're talking about Malcolm Fraser. He was personally involved in probably the two most important events in the 1970s in Australia. And this one here, we've gone into what his involvement was and how he coped with it. But he was also responsible for the historic sacking of Melbourne of Gough Whitlam in November 1975. And it was a historical day because it's the only time that a Prime Minister's ever been removed from office, and Malcolm Fraser was the one responsible for that. So in the 1970s, certainly Malcolm Fraser had a lot to do with important events in that era. Now it looks like Macca's just pulled somebody up in the street here. Now Macca, I see you've just pulled a gentleman up.
Mate, I've been. G'day, folks. I've been trying to find someone. Just before we go, I thought it'd be nice to put a few minutes in from someone that does remember it. Gary, this is Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, everybody. Hi, mate. How are you?
I've just kidnapped him from the QVB, but Gary does remember it quite well. It just in your own words, in a minute or two. I just want to see the public who does still.
I do remember it. I'm not sure about what
fire
year.
away, mate.
What year would it have been?
78.
78. Well,
Yeah.
I was 20-year-old back then.
Yeah, right.
So getting old.
Yeah.
And
We all are.
I remember it because as soon as I heard it was a City Garbo,
Yep.
my old football coach was a City Garbo, and I thought, I hope it's not my old footy coach.
Was he City of Sydney, by the way?
Yeah, he used to do the garbage around here.
Yeah, right. City of Sydney. City of Sydney.
That's the things I was thinking of. But I used, because I come from Balmain,
Right.
and we used to get off the bus right here anyway, every night, every day. I wasn't in here the night it happened, of course, but I remember it pretty clearly. Pretty clearly, you know.
It was big news, and it was fucking
It
horrible.
was big
wasn't it?
news
It was horrible.
because the big news was innocent people got killed.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I worked as a garbo myself. You can imagine going to work that night.
Yeah.
You said goodbye to your missus,
Yeah.
and you don't come home.
For the rest of her life, she would never get over that.
Well, how could you?
Well,
You
yeah.
know.
But there's an event
Yeah.
that people remember 40-something years later.
Yep.
And there's only a few events in history in my time that people say, I remember that. Like, 9/11, we remember. I knew where I was when Kennedy got shot.
Yeah. I've heard it. Everyone remembers that.
The
Yeah.
man landing on the moon in
course.
June 1969.
When Elvis died and all
Elvis
that sort
died.
of
John
I-
Lennon.
I don't actually remember where I was when I heard it. I mean, obviously I was wake up for work the next morning and probably seen it on the news back then.
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, it was huge news. Yeah.
Do you remember in 99 a guy getting away in a jungle in a helicopter? Remember that?
Mate, I was doing a garbage run around Homebush at the time, and all I seen was helicopters above me. And then the news come on,
Yeah.
and a woman hijacked a helicopter
Yeah.
and broke a guy out of prison.
Hey, he looks a lot like you. He looked very similar to this
Oh,
fella.
okay.
Yeah. That's
It
John.
was a few
That's
years
John.
ago.
That's
Hey, John. Gary's the name, buddy. How are
I
you?
took the pilot's cap, but this is not it.
Yeah.
Okay, good to meet you, buddy.
Well, mate. So that's your thoughts on it anyway,
Look,
Gary.
look,
I just
all I
wanted
can
to pluck
say-
someone that's just
No, good
curious
idea, that
to
was
see.
good, yeah.
Innocent people died. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it was.
Innocent people.
There was 3
And
killed, mate. Yeah.
I don't know the
Totally
whole story.
unnecessary.
I know it was political.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was a big meeting of all the whoever
Yep.
the big wigs, and
Yeah. Chogham
for
meeting. Yeah.
someone to put a bomb in the garbage.
It's cowardly
to
thing.
kill someone that's in
Yeah,
the hotel.
could've
Well, it
killed
don't
kids.
work that
Could've
way.
killed kids.
Kids, a granny, whoever.
Yeah.
No, terrible. Mate, Gary, thanks very much. I
much.
appreciate that, mate. Thanks, mate.
I've only just come into town. I'm from the Central Coast. I just come into town for
Oh,
old
there you
time's
go.
sake.
Well, I'll give you a
But-
car, mate. You'll have to watch yourself on
Okay,
that.
thanks a lot, boys.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Good on you, mate.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Well, that's pretty much it, folks. He's a nice fella, John.
Yeah, good
I
guy.
just plucked
He
him out of the
remembers the
QVB.
helicopter as well,
He
yeah.
does. He remembers the chopper and everything. But I just plucked him out of the QVB. We're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna do. We need to speak to mention our unbelievable supporters, John.
Well, I'd like to say on both our behalves that thank you, Whitehall and Associates in Sydney.
Absolutely.
Because they've got us quite a few subscribers.
Absolutely.
Subscriptions and likes for this program. And we mentioned it before.
We have. And we're going to mention them at the end of every show.
Yeah.
So I hope that's okay. But they're great supporters and they've been a lot of help for
Well,
us.
when you need a lawyer, who are you going to call?
Whitehall and Associates.
Because they got the answers. And
They have.
They will try. They care about their clients.
Absolutely.
And, we recommend them with confidence.
Absolutely. They're a Sydney-based firm. They're a young firm. And as we've said before, you name it, they do it. Whether it's a criminal, what you said, a will, institutional abuse, which you know is my big thing. I think that's great how they do things like that. Great with people. It's more about people than money. You know, they actually focus on relationships with
They'll do a lot
people.
of- even AVOs, the whole works.
The whole works.
You give them a call if you need them.
Please, Whitehall and Associates, Sydney-based. Marcus will put up all the graphics with their number. Fantastic law firm. We really appreciate their support, and so thank you, Whitehall. Anybody you know, and I've already recommended them to friends and said give them a
Yeah,
try.
me too.
If you're in the pub, ring Whitehall and Associates. Fantastic. I think that just about does us for today. That was episode 47.
I think this was an important one.
I think it was too, John, and your input was important too, mate.
Well, we revived and put it back in the memory of people. Because I often see something come up on the news or a documentary, and I say, I remember that. And, and I watch it, find a lot of stuff I didn't know. And I think we've probably revealed a few things today that people weren't aware of.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we brought up a few points, and it was important. Our respect to the three people that were executed on this terrible crime, respect to the families. We'd mentioned the names, and any surviving relatives, we're sorry and condolences. It was a terrible crime, and we'll leave it at that. That was 47. We're looking forward to 48 soon. We'll be back on location, which we love. Location. I love location. We're out here. We're amongst it. It's you know.
He's watching all the girls go.
I have noticed there is a certain amount of females going past, which is beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye.